Hi everyone, join me today as I paint this butterfly in ink and watercolor. I'm going to start with my sketch already inked onto the page. You can find the link to the free traceable sketch reference for this if you have a look in the description box below, and I'll also put the link on the screen now. I used a Pigma Micron liner pen in a size 03 to do the outline. You can use any pen that you want, just make sure that the ink is archival ink. I'll spray my paints to activate them, and I'm going to start by preparing my 4 colors before I start painting. You can use any 4 complementary colors. You don't have to use the same colors I do, but I'm going to start with Hansa Yellow Medium. Then I think this is a nice opportunity to use Cobalt Violet. And I think what will complement that nicely is Cobalt Teal. And then lastly, I'm going to mix up a darker Quinacridone Purple. I'm going to use a Chinese calligraphy brush to put water down on this top left wing of the butterfly. You can use any bigger brush to do that. I'm just taking clean water and then putting it over the whole surface of the top left wing. Then I'm going to use a smaller brush just to get to the edges so that I stay within the lines. And I might as well do the same on the top right wing and do both wings together so I can get them uniform. Using the smaller brush to get to the edges there. I'm going to use that smaller brush and pick up my Hansa Yellow Medium, and I'm going to put it down on the top left of the wing and then match it to the top right as well. Just letting it blend into the water and do its thing. Working wet and wet, I'm going to pick up that Cobalt Teal now because I want all of the colors to blend into each other. I'll drop it in first slightly away from the yellow and let it blend backwards so that it doesn't go green at the intersection. And I'll do the same thing on both sides. Just dropping some more in of the teal in and letting it blend to about as far as I want it to go. Just to beyond halfway on each of those wings. I'll rinse off my brush and pick up the Cobalt Violet now, and that'll be the next color that we're going to grade into. Again, I'm not touching the blue with it because I don't want the colors to mix and blend into a new color there. I just want them to slowly grade from one color to the other. I'll rinse off my brush and pick up the Quinacridone Purple now. I'll start at the outer edge of the wing and then work my way backwards towards the Cobalt Violet. And I'll just drop in some more of that Quinacridone Purple along the edge. I'm happy with the basic location of each of the colors. What I'm now going to do, because I'm trying to get that sort of stained glass effect, is I'm going to pick up each of my colors in turn and just drop in a little bit more around the edge of each of those lines that I've put down so that the intensity of the color is a little bit richer around the edge of each patch along the wing. and so that it grades to be lighter towards the center of each segment. So I've done the Hansa yellow medium. Now I'm doing the same with the Cobalt Teal. As the paper starts to dry, the color will blend not as far as it did before, which is exactly what I want. And I'm also dropping the color in a slightly thicker consistency that I did initially, and that's another reason why the color is more intense around the edge and then remains lighter along the middle. Doing the same with the Cobalt Violet now. If you are enjoying this video, I would really appreciate it if you would click the like button. Doing this really does help to build my YouTube channel, and if you have clicked the like button, thank you. Now what I want to do is just increase that contrast of the darks and lights. So I'm rinsing and drying off my brush on the paper towel and just lifting some of the color in the center of each segment of the wing. That's just going to make the section in the center lighter and increase that stained glass effect look. Now I'm going to take that Quinacridone Purple and do exactly the same thing, dropping it in around the edge of each section. If you are enjoying this tutorial and you feel inclined to make a donation towards me, I would appreciate it if you would do so on my Buy Me a Coffee platform. Payments are safe and secure, and I appreciate any and all donations. If you have made a donation, you're an absolute rock star. Thank you. Now I'm just going to do a little bit more lifting in the purple sections. And then I want to let this dry completely before I do the bottom wings. Now we'll rinse and repeat for the bottom two wings. But before I do so, I want to mix up one darker color. And for that, I'm going to use Carbazole Violet. I'm going to put water down on the whole area over the bottom two wings, just like I did over the top two. I'll use the mop brush to put the initial water down, spread it out as far as I can, and then use my smaller brush again to get to the edges. I want to use that Carbazole Violet for the overlap section, so I'm going to pick up the Carbazole Violet first and start with that closest towards the top in the overlap area. Then I'll pick up the Quinacridone Purple and do the blend into that. I'll match that equally on both sides. Now I'll pick up the Cobalt Violet and drop that in next. Then I'm taking the yellow first, starting with that at the edge and letting it work its way inwards. I just don't want it to go green when it touches the blue. Next I'll pick up the Cobalt Teal and I'll put it between the Hansa yellow medium and the Cobalt Violet. I want to darken up some areas using the Carbazole Violet up at the top, so I'm just going to go in with that again and go around the edges just like I did on the top wings where I'm trying to get that stained glass effect. So I'm going to work color by color and just dropping in the color around the edges of each of the segments to get that dark coloring around the edge. I just want to do some lifting on this overlap section before I carry on. So I'll just rinse and dry off my brush and do some lifting on the center. Moving on to the Cobalt Violet now, I'm going to work around the edges of each section using that. Let me do some lifting of those areas in the center. And I think that's enough for this layer. I'm going to let it dry and then assess. Now I want to work on the lines separating each of the segments on the wings, and to do that I'll use a Carbazole Violet and Indigo mix. I want this to be darker, but I still want to retain the transparency. So you'll see I'll use this color that I've mixed to put it down in between all of my segments, but it's still in a lighter consistency, even though it is a darker color. So when I put the color down, it is darker, but I can still see the glow of the underlying color still showing through because I'm not putting it down too thickly. I've put that color down on the top two wings, and I just want to give them a few moments to dry. So whilst they do that, I'm going to put the same color down on the trunk of the butterfly. I'm not looking to get any three-dimensional shading, just put the same color down on the whole trunk of the butterfly. Once that's done, I can now go and put my color on the bottom two wings. I'm happy with how that's all coming together now, but before I carry on, I need to let the whole thing dry entirely. Now I want to do a bit more work on the trunk of the butterfly, so I'm going to put some water down over the whole middle section first, and then using that Carbazole Violet and Indigo mix, I'm going to drop that in around the edge of the trunk on all three sections of the butterfly. That's going to start giving it a bit of a three-dimensional look to it. It's still quite wet at this early stage, so the color that I'm dropping in is blending quite far. That's fine as long as I retain the lightness down the center of each of the segments. Once I've got a bit of color down around the edge of all three segments, I can now try and go in with a slightly thicker consistency around the edges. The thickest consistency means it's going to not blend as far and just increase the contrast of the light and the dark on these middle sections. So I'll just keep tapping in my thicker consistency around the edges until I'm happy with the curvature that is formed. And then I'll use the same color on the top of the antenna. And there's the final sketch. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please make sure to click the like button. And until next time, bye for now.